Here we are today, first podcast number one, Here to Now. We have Johnny with us this evening, and we're going to ask him where he started in real estate.
Where did I start in real estate? That's a great question. It happened a while ago, actually, and just after getting married, in fact. So we had been married maybe in 2008. I've been living in an apartment, my wife and I, just the two of us, and watching a lot of home improvement kind of shows. Was always talking about buying a home or what's next. Um, Throughout dating and then finally getting married and living together. And we kind of just decided to jump into buying a small rental property. I'm in Montreal. We live in Montreal. There's a little suburb called Lachine. Back then, it wasn't as developed as it was today. We bought a triplex. We moved in, did the renovations, rented the other two units out, and we lived there for quite a while, about 5, 6 years. And that's kind of how we got started. Did a couple of things after moving in, bought another duplex. About a year later, we converted it to a triplex. And that's basically how we kind of got started.
Very nice, very nice. And where are you? Where would you say you are today in the things that you're working on?
It's a night and day, night and day. I mean, that to talk about where we are today, kind of understanding the process that it took, because we're talking about starting in 2010 and then buying the second one and finishing the project by 2012, 13, which was really a new construction of an entire basement unit in an existing duplex building. We actually had to take a little bit of a break for personal reasons and health reasons there for quite a while. So, we kind of just ran those two little things. And back then they were big things to us. Yeah. And once we started getting a little bit more stable in our own household, in our own lives, in our own health, which is a whole different story, we kind of started saying, okay, well, what's next? What do we do? And so I kind of started back into the underwriting, writing up the numbers, looking at different fourplexes, 4 units, 5 units, to see what's interesting, what's the market doing. And we're talking about the Montreal stuff. Once I've started looking at all this and also following a lot of, YouTube videos and podcasters and big names out there, joining a lot of Zoom calls, podcast calls, all these kinds of webinars, learning as much as I can, I kind of bumped into an old friend virtually that I've already known for about 10 years. And he was kind of already looking into growing into real estate as well. So we decided to do a small project, a small little duplex conversion. It was a purpose-built duplex. So in Montreal, duplexes are not necessarily side by side like they are in some of the other parts of Canada. They're actually stacked duplexes, stacked triplexes. And so we did that little conversion and we came out on top. But we also decided that, we each had our own families. We each had our own jobs. We couldn't dedicate flipping time to this. It took us 9 months to do it, but a lot of our own sweat equity.
Very
So
nice.
we decided, we decided that's not for us. We can't do these flips. We're not contractors. We had to hire trades and manage all of that with the families and the jobs and everything. So we decided to go, anything 6+ 6 to 20 units. That's when we incorporated, and that's when things kind of took off. So we incorporated ourselves into a holding company, co-founders. We started looking at projects in different parts of Quebec, which to a lot of the audience that might look at this in the future is considered by the rest of Canada almost a whole nother country, mostly because of language things. That's maybe a different topic too.
So you've got the bilingual.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, he grew up in a very francophone home. I grew up in an anglophone home, but working and living and going to school here in Quebec, you have to be able to speak both languages. So he knows both languages, I know both languages, but he's he's the one that's, I'm Anglophone, he's Francophone, so naturally we divide our roles up accordingly, right? Um,
Very nice. Yeah.
yeah, so that's kind of the story where we kind of started taking off.
Yeah, that's great. And my French is very poor. The 1 hour class every second day was not much for me. But uh, fortunate enough, our three kids have been in the French programs and stuff, so they're very good in French. Um, and then for the why, in the sense of, you know, why do you continue to do what you're doing, and what is the why for the larger uh outcome of where you see yourself going?
That's a really good question. It's a tough question. It's very much an introspective question. You have to think about who you are, where you are, what you know, what you want to know, and I've got a whiteboard here on my right and a whiteboard on my left here to scratch my quarterlies down and scratch my dailies down. But on one of my whiteboards here on my right, it's boxed in of what's my why. And I ask myself that question often. And my mentors and my coaches throughout the years, and I'm talking about direct mentors and direct coaches, not virtual where you're kind of just watching them, recorded on YouTube or whatever, or reading their books. Like Napoleon Hill can be somebody's mentor, as an example.
Yeah.
Um, it's always about nail down your why. Think about your why. What is the why? And I've broken it down into three different levels. I don't know many people that do this. Um, as a consultant, a business consultant, an advisor, I'm a self-employed. I work with a lot of companies that, look for business improvement and efficiencies in their businesses. Um, you have to break things down into manageable portions. And so I've broken it down into three portions. My immediate, which is me, Johnny. What is my why? Why am I doing this? But in terms of the circles, and if you think of Simon Sinek, he looks at leadership in terms of a circle of influence. So my personal circle of influence, my why, and I've extended that to my immediate circle, which is my family, my wife, my two kids, and then maybe my community is my last circle. Um, so to me, it's a little bit dynamic. My personal why is a passion. It's a real estate. It's growth. Um, it's stability. It's financial freedom. It's passive. And I love that word, passive. Passive income in real estate doesn't exist. No matter what people say, you've always got to work to get that passive income. And my why at more of a local bubble being my family, it's for my girls, it's for my wife, it's for a legacy for them to hopefully inherit. It's to grow and give them something that I didn't have growing up, right? And on a community level, the larger community level, this one's a little shocking to most people because it's fairly large. But hearing the stories and the history lessons of Canada in high school, particular communities, it struck me to see how their living conditions are. I'm talking about in the northern parts of Canada.
Mhm.
I have never visited. I don't know very many people from the northern communities, but just those stories have stayed with me since high school, and I'm in my early 40s, without going into it. So my goal has always been, what can I do? Because it's reprehensible to me, in my mind, that we have communities in Canada that live sub-third world. Um, it's unacceptable. And so over the years, I've always said, well, what can I do? What can Johnny? I'm just one guy. And so my bigger community goal is finding a way to bring living conditions into a better situation for the northern communities, whether it's pod homes, whether it's modular homes, whether it's converted container homes. It takes a lot of things around that. You can't just plop something down and, framing and roof and then you're done. You have to think about things like water supply, sewage supply, utilities, electricity, heating. Do you go green? So without going too much into all of that, that's kind of like that big community goal for me, uh, just on what I feel is right and what needs to be done, I guess. So my why on my wall is dynamic. It's got
Very
three layers to it.
well. Thank you very much for sharing. And also, where can anybody get in touch with you, or any of the services that you have or investments? Where would they be best to reach out at you to get a hold of you if they wanted to?
Yeah, that's I'm really accessible through Facebook. And just send me a DM on Facebook, Johnny Lombardo. I'm fairly recognizable. My profile picture is on there as well. And I'll reach out to you, I'll reply within, as soon as I can. I work in front of my computer all day long, so I get the pings all day long, and I try and respond as quick as possible. I think that's the best place to reach out to me.
Well, thank you very much again, Johnny. And thank you for coming to Paul's Kitchen on Wednesday.
Yeah, Paul's Kitchen. I like that. That's great. It's been a lot of fun, and hopefully we can do this again.
Okay. Till next time, next Wednesday, Paul's Kitchen.